This week on the podcast, we're going to talk about just how to navigate life changes. Now, I will be honest, we'll talk about some actual things that maybe a therapist would recommend. And then I'll talk about some of the things that I've personally done and kind of some of my pet peeves. And in the last couple of years here, I've had several life changes. I've grown my business. I've moved to 2 different states. I moved from California to Texas, and then I moved from Texas to Vegas. I'm now engaged. We're getting married relatively quick. So we're trying to buy a house in a year, and my sister's pregnant. So we're scheduling around that a little bit. But so there have been a lot of things that I've had to deal with. I know some of you might be going back to school. You might be starting a new job. You might be starting life post-college. There's a lot of different things that we kind of go through as we go through life, new experiences, new situations, new environments. And today we're just going to talk about kind of how to approach those and how to do it, in my opinion, successfully. And again, it may differ a little bit from what a therapist would tell you. And I'm no expert here. These are just the things that have worked for me, the things I've observed, and kind of the things that also drive me fucking crazy. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it here. So number one, obviously, you just have to accept that changes in life are a part of what we go through. You're not going to be able to just live a comfortable life your entire life. There will be things that, you have to learn how to conquer, whether that is going back to school and changing up your routine and not just getting to go have fun anymore and having to go sit in a class, or maybe you're moving to a new city, a new state, a new country. There's so many different things that we could be doing. Getting married, having kids. There's all those things all throughout life. And sometimes you just have to know that those things are to be expected as opposed to trying to avoid them. And I think sometimes reframing it where it's not this scary, really stressful, horrible thing. And instead it's a new time to get a practice being self-sufficient if it's something that, you are personally doing. Even moving, I moved with my boyfriend at the time, but it's still something that I personally also had to conquer. Maybe you are moving by yourself. Maybe you're doing it with other people, but this is a way for you to grow, to become more self-sufficient and build confidence within yourself. The next thing here, prioritizing self-care. And I just want to say, this is one of those things where I think that people can get a little woo-woo, and then it almost steers people away from actually doing it. In my opinion, it's just whatever is going to help you manage your stress, whatever that looks like. And you know what? Sometimes for me, that is going out and letting loose and having fun and having a drink and dancing. Or now I live in Vegas, maybe I'll go sit at the 3-card poker table, whatever it is within reason. And also, of course, having your healthy ways to blow off steam or to manage stress and to just kind of prioritize yourself. I also know that I need a lot of alone time. If I'm around people a lot, it starts to really wear on me. My social battery drains. So I know to prioritize that. There's also obviously, going to work out. I work out every single day, whether maybe I'm going for a walk. Yesterday, I played pickleball. Whatever it is, move your body. And again, that could just be getting your steps in on a treadmill. Sometimes I'll even use my walking pad and I'll watch TV with it. Or I'll go to the gym and I'll get on the treadmill and when Love Island was on, I would go watch Love Island. Whatever it looks like for you, have those ways that you can kind of step away from the chaos and just have some time with yourself, process things, de-stress a little bit. Next thing, building a support system. I really do think that it's so important to be mindful of who you have around you through life changes. And sometimes it's really easy to get stuck talking to people that will let you just kind of spiral the drain on things. And I'll talk about this a little bit more with the last tip. But you have to find people who are going to uplift you, people who are going to force you to do what's good for yourself and not just sit in shit, and people that are going to also support you. There might be people that aren't going to, support whatever change in life. Maybe you're moving and it's really hard for your family. Maybe those aren't the people that you're going to lean on through this time. Maybe, hopefully, this is not applicable to me, but if you did get engaged or you're having kids and there's somebody who just isn't being super supportive, distance yourself from that person. You do not need any of that negative energy. You don't need anybody who's going to make you feel more anxious about a move and again, those are things that I've just run into in the last little bit. If you're going back to school and there's even a sibling that's having a hard time with it, maybe it's just not the time for you guys to be super close, because that can also wear on you as you're trying to adjust to a new environment. So just be mindful of those things. Be mindful of who you keep around you, because the energy is going to strongly impact you, especially when you are physically taking yourself and putting yourself in a new situation where you already have to go find a new community in that specific setting. Like going back to school, going to school for the first time, moving to a new city, graduating, and all of a sudden your friends aren't around you all the time. Whatever that looks like that is like my biggest piece of advice. And I have done it where I've sat there and just spiraled the drain with people. I've talked about all the negative things going on to where I couldn't see the good stuff. And I've talked to people that I tried to justify my actions to when I knew I was doing what was best for me. When I went to nanny in Cabo, I had a lot of people that were just fucking rude about it and like would act like I was doing it for other purposes than what I was doing it for, or people that thought it was weird that I was doing it. And I just didn't care to talk to those people. And after Cabo, when I came back and I stopped drinking, I had friends that were rude. And it could even be a change like that. If you have people that aren't supporting you, stop trying to justify your decisions to those people. Because a lot of times, especially if it's something that you're doing that makes you feel good, or where you're growing as a person and it feels right to you, that person could be jealous. That person could just be a fucking negative person. And like, you just don't need that when you're already kind of in a vulnerable position. So that's my piece on that. And I think that sometimes too, we just get stuck in this like letting life happen to you. My moves weren't necessarily my first choice, but they were something that like I did choose to say yes to. And I can look at that as something that was like, oh, I have to go do this. Or maybe you didn't, get the job that you really wanted, whatever it is, and you're having to go into a new job. Instead of sitting there letting yourself think, okay, well, this is shitty that this happened to me, you like take that situation and make it what you want it to be. Flip it on its face and like make it a positive thing. Don't let life happen to you, if that makes sense. And not in like, again, like a woo-woo way, but just like, don't be the victim. Like, you're not the victim of life's circumstances. You can make it whatever you want to make it. And maybe it is a growing opportunity. When I got all my shit stolen in Cabo, I could have let that make me a victim and, just sat in it. But instead, I picked myself up and looked at, okay, what decisions did I make that led me to a position I wasn't happy with? My life was not in a great place. My friendships weren't in a great place. So how am I going to take that and grow from it instead of sitting in it and just like thinking that life happened to me? Number 4, plan and adapt. I think we often go through changes, and again, you get so overwhelmed by so many things going on, and you're just trying to kind of keep your head above water. Maybe that is, again, going back to school and you have all these assignments, and then you have all these extracurriculars, and maybe it's a new job where you're just having so many assignments thrown at you, and you can't even keep it all straight. You've moved, and you're trying to get all the things figured out with your new place. If it's a new state, that's even more stressful. Then you have to make friends, get a new job, all those different stressors. It's so easy to let it all just be like thrown at you and to get so caught up in it and feel extremely stressed out. Make a plan and adapt. Do not be afraid if you plan that you're going to meet friends XYZ way because you just moved to a new place, or, maybe you're at a place and you're like, I need a new group of people. If that first one doesn't work, that's fine. Adapt. When I've had to make changes in my business, you just adapt, right? And I think that that's somewhere that people get really stuck when you do kind of make a plan. You have an idea of how you're going to conquer this new change, and then all of a sudden something doesn't go the way you thought it was, and then you let it just paralyze you, and either you stop trying to progress, or again, you get stuck in that like life is happening to me mindset instead of continuing to adapt and make changes. There have been so many things that I've tried in my business, and things that just like completely went sideways, things that were wildly unsuccessful. And instead of letting myself get down about that, and don't get me wrong, like sometimes I for sure did, or I was like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? But figure it out, right? Pick yourself back up, look at what you can do different, look at everything handed to you and figure out, okay, what am I going to do now? How am I going to pivot and adapt because this didn't work out? That is just a part of life. And if you get so paralyzed every time something doesn't go the way you thought it was going to, even if it's like making an itinerary for a trip, you have to be willing to be flexible with things and to figure out how you're going to problem solve. And those are the things that teach you how to be self-sufficient, how to handle issues that are thrown your way. And the more you do that, the better you become at it and the less paralyzing it feels when problems do arise. Next thing. This is like the biggest one for me. You have to be realistic when there are big changes. Not everything is going to go the way you plan. Not everything's going to be great. It's not all going to be hunky-dory. You have to be realistic with yourself on whatever that change is happening in life. Wedding planning. I know that it's in a short amount of time. I have to be realistic about the fact that there are going to be times where I feel a little stressed or overwhelmed. But again, that's where when you're realistic and honest with yourself, you can reframe those things. Okay, I'm stressed, but this is a really fun thing that I'm looking forward to. And how am I going to delegate? How can I ask people? There's one of my girlfriends. She's just like super creative. She had the most beautiful wedding. And she's like, I created a Pinterest board for me and her husband. They're coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder if she'd be down to help me with there's like a bar that we want to decorate. So I was like, I wonder if she'd be down to like help me come up with some ideas. And she was so into it. My mom and my sister, my soon to be mother-in-law, like there's all these things. Like she was really excited about like getting a food truck. So we were like, okay, cool. Research that. You delegate. If there's things that people want to do, or people ask if they can help you with something, delegate. Don't be afraid to release the control and let someone help you. Actually, as I'm recording this right now, my now fiance is running errands. He has the day off today. We're leaving, actually he has a work trip. So I'm going with him, and I have all these different work things that I'm trying to get figured out and ironed out because I have new instructors that have been training throughout the summer. They're all coming. I fly in Friday and they'll already be here. So we have like our whole training weekend that weekend. It's so crazy and hectic. But I could just let myself stress and not ask for help and become a monster. Or he offered to help. And I was like, hey, if you could go find, bless his heart. I was like, if you could find me a pair of jeans, like my jeans are so ripped right now. And I just want a comfy pair of jeans to travel in. And he was like, oh my gosh, yeah. So he's like sending me photos. He's literally the best. And like even was like, do you want a pair of running shoes? Like he's been so helpful. But again, you have to be willing to delegate, especially when people ask. Don't be prideful. Let them help you. The main point here being, do not sit and bitch and spiral the drain. Figure it out. Problem solve. Find solutions. Do not let yourself, just like when you're making that plan, you're planning out how things are going to go, being realistic with what it's going to look like, setting a to-do list. If you need that for your certain change, whatever it is, you have to make sure, most importantly, that when things do not go your way, when you're having a hard time with it, you can sit and you can feel really sorry for yourself, or you can sit and you can get really down on yourself, or you can start to try to find solutions. And you know what? Maybe that solution is seeking professional help. I've been in that position before. I've gone through like after Mexico, I've dealt with things before in life where I really did need professional help, and I went and I got it. If maybe that is just forcing yourself to stop talking about the negative shit going on, do that. If that means distancing yourself from people who give you the space to talk about those things without holding you accountable, or they contribute to the negativity and your stressors, distance yourself from those people. When I first moved to Texas, and I was just like starting to feel really lonely. And I will never forget, I was sitting on the couch one day and I was like, I have to figure this out. And so naturally then I went on TikTok. But as I was scrolling TikTok, I found this app, Geneva, I want to say is what it was called. And it was talking about how there's groups with people in like your local area. So I was like, okay, fuck it. So I go download it. I'm looking and I'm finding all these different events going on. And I was like, I need to make a plan for myself, commit to it. And I actually ended up paying for this, like, it was like Pilates and like food afterwards. And they had gift bags and stuff. I paid for it, and I told myself that I was gonna go do that. And that's how I met pretty much all my friends in Texas, from that one event. And then I met people through them, and it was so much fun, and it was really uncomfortable, but like I forced myself to do it because I knew that I was feeling lonely. I knew that I was feeling a little low. So I did something about it. And that doesn't mean that for a couple of weeks I didn't sit there and kind of feel sorry for myself. But then I was like, okay, it's time to get my shit together and take some action here. When I moved to Vegas, meeting people in Vegas is a lot harder than it is to meet people in Texas. And the hard thing is a lot of people are here maybe for just a little bit of time, and then they're kind of moving on to something else. So when I moved here, I was like, I know that I have to meet people. We're going into summertime. I'd had some friends out the first weekend here. And then I immediately was like, how am I going to meet people? I did a bunch of research. I looked on the Geneva app. I couldn't find anything. So I don't know why I just like had this negative stereotype of like Bumble BFF, but I did. I really didn't want to have to download it. But I was like, you know what? That's my only option. That's the only thing that right now I know to do to for sure be able to meet people. So I signed myself up. I started planning a bunch of girl dates, and literally I went on one with my friend Molly, one of my closest friends here. And then another girl ended up putting me in this group chat, and there was like a bunch of girls that all met up at a speakeasy, and that's like my group of friends now. There's another girl that I met, and actually for the first time we hung out, she'd come over with her at the time fiance, and we did like a 4th of July barbecue thing, and she did move back to Texas, which I'm really sad about. But that's how I met my friends. You have to be willing to take the steps you need to fix the problem that you're dealing with. Again, if I sat there and sulked and was sad, I'd sit in the house and I'm like, at least in Texas, I kind of knew a couple people. I knew nobody in Vegas. I would sit here and I'm like, I have nowhere to go. Like, not a single friend to call up. I'm completely alone, and my boyfriend was working crazy hours when we first moved because we moved for his job. And again, I was like, I can sit here and be sad. I literally made myself an entire like week plan. Here's exactly what I'm going to do to get out of the house. Here's what I'm going to do to make friends. And here's what I'm going to do for work. And I would knock all of those things out. I'd get ready, get really done up. I'd go sit at a new coffee shop. I'd try new places, because that just forced me to get out of my comfort zone and go try to make my situation better. So biggest piece of advice, do not sit in shit. Make solutions, problem solve. When I was on my trips, I had a lot of hard moments. When I was in college, I had a lot of hard moments. When I came back and I was drinking a lot, I actually set myself up to live with people that were not for me at the time, nor would they be now. When I made positive changes in my life, they had nothing positive to say about it. And I could have chosen to try to appease them or do whatever, but instead I was like, you know what? I'm going to lean into the friends I know that support me and what I'm doing, and I'm going to try to make new friends. And I did. And I started reaching out to people. And those are the friends that I really kind of carried out the rest of my senior year with. And I think it's okay to do that when you're growing or you're doing new things. You may need and require a different support system. And I think that there were friends that I had along the way in college that maybe I chose for the wrong reasons. And sometimes I wasn't my best self and able to show up in those friendships because I was dealing with my own shit. So, some of those just didn't work out the way I would have maybe wanted. But for the most part, like, I had friends that saw me through those phases, but sometimes I needed them at different times. My closest friend, who literally helps so much with Everyday Armor, pushed me to start at Hannah. Junior year was not as close with her because I knew that, and I've talked about this before, I was doing a lot of crazy stuff. I was drinking like 5 to 7 days a week, and she was on a much healthier trajectory and like really dedicating her time to school. So we drifted apart a little bit, but then we came back together senior year and she really supported me. And I think that it's okay to have friendships go in phases, but you just have to be mindful of what are you currently going through and who's really going to support you and help you find those solutions instead of just sitting in it. And I've really had people that, because sometimes it feels good to sit in stuff and to rehash something and talk about it a million times. And I have totally been there, 1005% guilty of it. Bad. But since I've stopped doing that, it has changed tremendously. And a little side tip, use your voice memos app. I know that sounds really crazy. I probably actually, if somebody went through mine, the things they'd probably think about me. But like, I have used my voice memos app to act as like venting. And the second that I get done, I'm always told myself, try to wrap it up though in a pretty bow. Like, what is the positive thing you're going to take away from this? Or like, how can you flip it so you're not so fucking angry or annoyed by it? And I would, or I would like, and again, this is me like being a nut, like talking to myself on a voice memo. Or I'd be like, okay, well, you know what? Fuck it. This is how I'm going to change this. I'm not going to sit here and like let this happen to me. I'm not going to be a victim here. How am I going to work on this? Or how am I going to change this situation for myself so I don't feel like this, like I did at the beginning of this voice memo? And that became like my venting session. And it's interesting because those voice memos maybe at most were 15 minutes. I would call a friend up and I could be on the phone for hours talking about the same thing over and over. And in those voice memos, I got so much more accomplished because I ended on a positive note, not feeling drained and feeling uncomfortable that I just like spilled all this shit to someone that I really didn't need to. But that helps me problem solve. So find those ways for you, prioritize whatever it looks like for you to just alleviate some stress, chaos, have new routines. And sometimes, like for me, those routines could look different. Like when I'm like planning for a change, when I moved here, my routine looked very different than Texas. When I'm traveling, my routine looks very different. But I have a routine to help keep me on track, keep me accountable throughout the different changes I experience in life. And you'll find what works for you. I hope these tips were somewhat helpful. And I'll kind of just, again, recap. Number one, acknowledging that these things are normal and reframing it as a chance to grow and just be more independent or self-sufficient. Number two, prioritizing self-care in a way that works for you. It does not have to be meditating or ice baths or, any of that stuff. And if you want to do that, awesome. It doesn't have to look like that though. You have to find the things that are right for you and whatever that feels like. Next thing, building a support system. And I will say my support system in college, so I had three littles. One of my littles, Bridget, and her little, so my grand little Ella, they are like just incredible. Like every life change, I will say, like sometimes the friends you find in college are just amazing. And it's funny because we don't talk all the time, but we have a group chat. And I always know that whether it's something really good or something that I'm dealing with, like they're always there. They have such a logical perspective. Sometimes it's good to have those kinds of people that aren't in your day-to-day operation, but they are always there. They're loyal. They call you out when you need it. And they're just good freaking people. And they really want the best for you. And that honestly, like those two girls are just love them. So, finding those people, building your support system, not being afraid to distance yourself from people that just aren't positively contributing to this new change, whatever that is for you, making sure that you plan and adapt, looking at your routines, being realistic with what things are going to look like. If, again, you're going to school, getting your class schedule. If you're going to work, okay, I'm now working, maybe this is like your first job out of college. I'm now working from 9 to 5. When am I going to work out? When am I going to prioritize sleep? Or whatever it is. How am I going to eat? Am I going to make dinner every night? Am I going to meal prep? Am I going to do DoorDash? You have to kind of figure that out for yourself, set realistic expectations, and don't be afraid to pivot when things aren't working. If, again, you're now in a 9 to 5 job and you used to always work out in the morning, but now you have to wake up at like 5 a.m. to work out, you're not going to get a good workout in. You don't like getting up early in the morning and you don't feel like you can get ready for work. Maybe you're just going to work out in the evening, or maybe your workouts look a little bit different. You just have to be willing to make those changes for yourself and figure out what's going to work and keep you on track throughout the different life changes. And last thing, when it does not go your way, stop sitting in it and bitching. Find a way to solve the problems. I just can't stress this enough. And I don't say this as somebody who did this perfect. I say this as somebody who really did this so wrong and sideways and backwards when I was traveling, when I first moved, through a lot of life changes in college. And I would just sit all the time and just talk about it to anybody who would listen. And it took such an emotional toll. And the second I stopped doing that, I had so much more time to invest in my business, in my relationship, in building friendships that really were meaningful and helped positively contribute to things for me. I really can't stress it enough. Find the solutions. If you're going back to college and you're just not able to like make food like you could throughout the summer and you're just feeling unhealthy and you really want to get your nutrition up, go to ChatGPT, say, hey, I want a meal plan. I want this meal plan to have XYZ macros. I want it to have minimal ingredients, but still taste good. And I want this for 5 days, something that reuses the same ingredients. I don't like XYZ. For me, it's cucumbers. Whatever it is, create a meal plan for me and create a shopping list. Boom, there you have it. Find your solutions. Use the resources available to you. Please Please, if there's anything you take from this, use your voice memos, talk to yourself if you need to, stop venting to everybody because it intensifies your negative feelings and makes the problem feel so much bigger and worse. And most of the time after you leave a venting session, with the exclusion of, the one software we might really need them. When you leave those venting sessions that are hours long, 45 minutes long, you never feel better or more productive about the problem. Use voice memos. Don't sit and spiral the drain on shit, and have the people that'll hold you accountable and give you solutions that you vent to. I will vent to my fiance because I know he won't sit there for hours with me and talk about a problem. He's going to give me solutions. Have your people that you go to that'll do that for you. So I just am somebody that I love changes in life. I love getting to test myself throughout the moves as hard as they were sometimes. I love that. Planning a wedding in 4 months, I honestly love it. I like the stress. I like the chaos. And you just have to find what works for you and look at new changes and opportunities in life as chances to grow instead of negative things or things that just negatively stress you out. So I will leave you with that, and good luck on your new changes. If there's ever any tips you want on certain life changes, please reach out. Let us know in the show notes. There's a link to do that. And then as always, please rate, review, subscribe, all the things. Let us know what you're thinking about the podcast. And if you want to be on, you want somebody for us to reach out to be on, or certain topics, please let us know. Thank you guys, and I will chat with you next week.